Alright, let's do this one last time. Megamind was an animated film that was released on November 5th in the year of 2010. It follows the main characters, Megamind and Minion, who are villains that end up defeating the hero of Metro City, Metro Man. After that, they then go through a whole character arc from going to being villains to being heroes as they fight to take down the main villain that they created themselves, Titan. Now, while this is viewed as an average superhero or villain film on paper, the way that they handled the character arcs in this movie and the way that they went over the ideal process of are you naturally born with bad intentions or are you naturally born with good intentions was so powerful. And the way that they did it was so well handled that it led to many people loving this movie, including me, myself. This movie is arguably one of DreamWorks' best movies. It's up there with like Shrek 2 in my opinion. So ever since then, about 13 years later, 14 at this point, people have been asking, are we gonna get a Megamind 2? And about a year ago, as of recording this, like 2023, they finally announced a Megamind 2, along with a following TV show that releases alongside with it. And did it live up to the hype? Was it gonna be equally as good or better like we expected? No, it was horrible. The self-proclaimed Megamind 2, or what it's actually called, Megamind vs. the Doom Syndicate, released on the 1st of March of this year, 2024, about 11 days ago as of recording this. And to nobody's surprise, this movie didn't do well at all. Currently, as of recording, this movie has a 10% tomato meter and a 7% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes, making this the lowest rated DreamWorks film of all time. And after watching the movie for myself and collecting all my thoughts, I get it completely. Megamind 2, or Megamind vs. the Doom Syndicate, is an honest cash grab, and it makes no sense as to why they really wanted to make a sequel. And considering the fact that they had the same writers as the first movie, it makes no sense how bad this actually is. But I digress. Before I go into a complete rant, we're going to talk about everything in the movie, starting with number 1, the story. So the story of Megamind 2 goes as followed. When Megamind's former villain team, the Doom Syndicate, returns, the newly crowned blue hero must keep up evil appearances until he can assemble his friends, Roxanne, Chum, and Kiko for some reason, to stop his old teammates from launching Metro City to the moon. Now, from the beginning, from the first sentence and synopsis of this movie, this makes no sense. Megamind established, the first movie established that there were only two, technically. The villain and the hero, Megamind and Metro Man. It's okay to introduce new villains and new elements into this film, but whenever you go directly against, your universe's rules, that's where things start to get tricky. That's like going, hey, Shrek, he lived in a swamp alone in Shrek 1 through 4, and then Shrek 5 is like, oh yeah, no, he used to actually have ogre neighbors. That just absolutely mixes things up. And the way that everything was handled in the story, and the way that it absolutely just punished the first film in terms of what was canon and what wasn't, especially the Button of Doom. The way that it just ruined what was canon in the first movie really made this really messy. And that is so disappointing, especially coming from the same writers who worked on this that also worked on the first one too, the main ones. And the story was only the tip of the iceberg. I'd say far worse than the story were the characters themselves. The characters, of Megamind, Minion, and Roxanne Ritchie were all completely just out of character in this movie. So much so, it felt like they took 10 steps back from where their characters were at the end of the first movie, and also the Button of Doom. Megamind, although written by the same people, is kind of turned into an idiot in this movie, if I may say so, in the lightest way possible. He wants to work alone again, which is something that we went over in the first movie and got fixed. He's an idiot with technology sometimes, and isn't always prepared for, scenarios where things could go south. Unlike his first movie counterpart where he is. Minion himself is kind of the same, but he just feels off the whole time. And Roxanne feels like she took a complete character step back for this one. Originally, she was a reporter, very strong, confident, had a lot of stuff going on, and her relationship with Megamind was complicated. I guess you could call it a love relationship, whatever you want. But in this one, she just kind of gets the back seat for the whole film, which is very disappointing, considering the fact that she is one of the strong characters of the first film. And the new characters that are introduced aren't that much better. If not, they're worse. First, we have Kiko, who is this kid who's inspired by Megamind, and she runs this fan page, a blog, whatever, streaming service, okay, of Megamind doing superhero things, or just a Megamind fan club. And she is basically taking over most of Roxanne's screen time. She's introduced and kind of puts Roxanne to the side for the whole point of the story. Roxanne's still there, but Kiko takes more of a priority in the scenes, and for most of them anyways. And she doesn't really have a character arc. She's just there. She's just there. That's a big problem. And then the new characters that are also introduced, aka the villains, the Doom Syndicate, just feel lifeless. Like, it kind of feels like everything that Megamind did in terms of how it went about its heroes and villains, the way that it kind of made fun of that little trope of, oh, you're a hero, I'm a villain, bad guys do bad stuff. It just kind of felt like they did the opposite of that. They went with the most standard stuff possible. You've got the Doom Syndicate filled with these practically B-list villains. You've got one who can control the weather, one who controls darkness like shadows, one who's a molten lava rock monster, and one who's a mime. I believe that was it, actually. And they don't really have any good character traits. They're just evil to be evil. And I guess they were old friends of Megamind when he was trying to take over Metro City. It's just kind of, overall, the characters kind of suck. Like, the previous characters that are returning have been reverted back, like 10 steps back from where they were before. And the new characters just don't have enough substance to make the story work or to even make it good. It's not even entertaining. Like, the one character who actually had like a funny character trait this whole time was probably Nighty Night. And he's the guy with medieval armor or whatever, and he controls the shadows. And that's because it kind of felt like for a certain portion of the story, he was going to turn good, but he just never did. Like, he had a light side to him. He was kind of funny, but that was it. Overall, the characters just weren't that good. And then we have the animation, which is just such an embarrassment on its own. And I can't even put this into the script that I have here. I'm going off the script right now. The animation is terrible. Megamind 1 still holds up to this day. Granted, can you see where there's like CGI errors and issues? A little bit. Yeah, it's DreamWorks animation. I mean, they're not like Pixar where it's going to hold up over time. But DreamWorks usually has good animation with their films. And especially after like Puss in Boots, The Last Wish, and the Shrek series, and Despicable Me still, you'd figure that they would have good animation for arguably one of their most loved movies in DreamWorks. However, Megamind 2 has basically hit rock bottom with its animation. Think about those shows, and I'll put it up on screen here, like the Kung Fu Panda spinoff or whatnot, where they do those spinoffs for movies and they look really just worse than the films. That's basically what this was, as you've probably been seeing this whole time. And that's not low quality, that's just genuinely how the whole film was. You can see a lot of animation errors, a lot of things. The movie felt like it wasn't finished. And that was so hard to sit through while watching it, which is why I wouldn't recommend it. It was so hard to sit through this movie with all these animation errors and seeing these weird character movements. The animation sucked. And it really is an embarrassment after 14 years to have a sequel to a beloved film that doesn't even look good or better than a film that came out 14 years ago. That's like having Kung Fu Panda 4 look like it was a Cartoon Network CGI low-budget TV show after Kung Fu Panda 3 came out. This feels like a TV movie, not a true sequel that Megamind deserves. And at one point, you'd have to ask yourself, what was the point of making this sequel? Well, I'll tell you very simply, it's obviously money. But it just kind of felt like this was a cash grab, which it absolutely was at this point. They knew that people wanted a Megamind 2. They even said it in the trailers. And it really goes to show how just the monkey's paw curled on this one. We wanted it, but at what cost? And I guess a lot of people didn't really have any types of low expectations for it, because after all, Puss in Boots: The Last Wish was the sequel to the first movie, and it did so good at its message. It was so powerful with what it did, and it had incredible animation. But seeing this is just such a Debbie Downer. And apparently they're talking about making a third movie, or they want to make a third movie, but for a theatrical release. Now, my opinion on it, I don't think we should have that. Like, I don't... After what I've seen with the sequel film... The sequel, yeah. After what I've seen with that, I don't want to see a third movie. And that's really a shame. I loved Megamind the movie. I loved it a lot. And seeing it turn out like this, where it's just badly animated, the characters are regressed by a lot, the story sucks and is inconsistent and ruins the canonicity of the first film and the Button of Doom. And seeing that the point of it was just being a cash grab really hurts. I think if they were to do a third movie, fine, but make it good. Ignore this one and just do a true sequel. Kind of like what they did with Cars 3. But overall, guys, this movie, I wouldn't recommend it. I'll give it a 0.5 out of 10. The only reason why I'm giving it a 0.5 is because some of the moments were funny to me. There were a couple jokes, but that's about it. This movie really does kind of suck. No, it just does suck. And I may be a bit harsh on it, but that's because this is a movie that I was really looking forward to once it was announced. And then the closer I got, the less impressed I got. And then as soon as I watched it, I hated it. But hey, let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. I'm just Jazzy Butters 2. How are you? And I will see you all next time. Peace!